Hi guys, so finally I'm coming back with the final comments regarding the Euro 2024 European Football Championship that was held in Germany in the summer of 2024, of course. I had some brief interventions about this, but now I want to wrap it up. Especially I've written something on my website, dominte88.com, so you can see there some comments, mostly the same I'm making here, but also a general ranking I've made for the last 40 years, in which I've tried to capture as best as possible the performance for each nation from Europe that took part in at least one tournament, regardless it was World Cup or Euro. From Europe, it's interesting that the only nation that only took part of the World Cup in 2010, for example, was Bosnia and Herzegovina, and they didn't took part in any didn't take part in any of the European competitions. Regardless, I made this ranking just to try to put the best way possible the actual nation football evolution. And I will use this to comment briefly, doesn't matter the subject here. So the ranking, just for you to understand exactly how it was made, I've considered the two key factors: the points gathered at all the tournaments, which of course it's a significant part, but it cannot be the most important, because the essence of participations to these tournaments are to win it. Not everybody wins it, even though we saw some big surprise during time. The last one was Greece, for sure, 2004. But it's important to reach the knockout stages as high as possible in the tournament. So as high as you reach the tournament phases, then of course the points are greater, and the coefficient I've tried to calculate is greater. So to shorten up, it's 20% the points and 80% is based on the progression, the winners, finals, semi-finals and quarterfinals. These are the key points that I've considered, and I've tried to make the let's say reasonable ranking, in which France, without very big surprises, is leading. So France, because it's leading here in the last 30 years, I can see it was the biggest disappointment of the tournament, actually, because it scored one single action goal in 5 matches, which is very few. I mean, very less. They had one against Austria in the first group match and against Belgium in the last 16 by an own goal. They draw with Poland from a penalty scored by Mbappe. They drew 0-0 with the Netherlands, and then in the I am missing something. Yeah, in the quarterfinals they didn't score anything. It was like the Netherlands was a goalless draw with Portugal, and then a victory at the spot kick, and then 2-1 defeat with Spain in the semi-finals, with the only goal scored by Colomwani from Mbappe pass. Mbappe being a very big disappointment, also considering his image, his potential, and his the way in which he uses to play at the World Cups, especially. So it was the biggest disappointment, France, and Mbappe at this tournament, because we were expecting much more from them. Of course, apart from Mbappe, they shouldn't have too many other great players involved. I cannot state I like anybody else, even though, for example, Tchouaméni or Camavinga are players that are considered to be the future of world football, but I didn't like any of them, regardless or not to mention that the attacker Dembele is well expired right now. I mean, he's not a footballer that you can hope to get his performance from Dortmund from some years ago, maybe, I don't know even when it was, I think 7 years ago. It's quite a lot back track when he actually performed well, and we hoped he will be a top player. Actually, he leveled at a certain point, and I cannot say I have great expectations from here. Marcus Thuram, even though he's playing at a decent level, he looks like more like I don't know how to say it. He doesn't look like a attack footballer. He's very weak on the attack. He didn't score anything. He has few goals for France. We didn't expect too much out of him. Kolo Muani is not the worst potential forward, striker, winger, or how you want to call him. Especially he scored the only goal. But Kolo Muani in the end will be mostly remembered for the great miss in the final with Argentina. You know, that miss when Emiliano Martinez put his foot in front of a goal that would have brought France the World Cup. Regardless, going back to the main idea, France was a disappointment. Even though they reached the semi-finals, they weren't the team that looked any moment to win the tournament. Now, before going to the second spot, which is Germany, I want to add something about my ranking. I did in the last 30 years, so it's from 1994. So, being from Romania, I try to capture as efficient as possible the results of Romania, and to see actually where Romania does stay in the modern football, because a 30-year mark is quite a generational period, so it can be reliable in defining exactly where do you stay football-wise and result-wise. But not only this, after the 90s, many changes took place. For example, Euro from 96 had 16 teams, was more relevant for this ranking. Before it had only 8. I mean, including 1992, and also the World Cup had, I'm not sure, but I think it had 9 in 90. It had still 24 teams, yes, but the point is that in 90 there were some nations that from 94 onwards weren't existing anymore, like the Soviet Union, like Yugoslavia, like Czechoslovakia, and so on. So I prefer to keep this ranking for the 30 years to have the best alignment in terms of points, also because from 1994 it was the 3 points awarded for a victory and so on. There were several factors that influenced my decision to consider this as a relevant ranking for the last decades. So yeah, this is why I wanted to comment here. So Czechia, the Czech Republic inherited Czechoslovakia's let's say achievements more or less, but Slovakia also had played a good part. Serbia mostly inherited Yugoslavia's legacy, but Yugoslavia had also included Croatia, which you see how well it performed in the last years, decades even, because we are speaking about 3 World Cup semi-finals, a very good performance, and so on. So you have also Slovenia there, which is a very small but interesting football nation in the last decades, and so on. Also, you have a unified Germany, and all these factors contributed to my decision. Anyway, speaking about Germany, the second in the ranking is indeed Germany, and it's somehow surprising, but not necessary, because Germany had always a very good consistency in participating at tournaments in the last 40 years. They reached a lot of semi-finals, finals. They had good results. They won the World Cup in 2014. They won the Euro in 1996. France has 3 trophies 2 World Cups and 1 Euro tournament. Played some other finals, like in 2016 against Portugal in the Euro, and 2 other World Cup finals in 2006 and 2022, as you well know it. But Germany also played the final in 2002. They played the final in 2008. The first trophy won by Spain in, let's say, modern football, in the Euros. Germany also achieved a lot of semi-finals and so on. So in some regards, their presence is very justified here. Now Germany disappointed because they didn't go upward to the quarterfinals, but still they've been they produced a good football. They were, in my opinion, the second best playing team after Spain. Their advantage was that they were host nation. So from here the big disappointment, because normally if you are a host nation and you are playing the football like Germany plays and other opponents play a lot worse football, then you are expected to go much more. But their bad luck was Spain crossed their path in the quarterfinals, so then only one could have qualified. So Germany stopped here, but it is still a nation, a solid football nation. After France, their achievements are give them the second place. A third place, of course, to close this first three in the ranking is Spain. Spain had the most trophies won, 3 Euros and 1 World Cup in the last 3 decades, and of course mostly from 2008. Now Spain is on the third spot. My impression is because they underperformed at many tournaments, even though they performed good at and won 4 trophies. Mostly all the finals they played into, they won, and they only lost one semi-final, I think the Italy semi-final in 2021 at Euro. But apart from this, they won everything they had the final opportunity to. Now Spain was eliminated from the group stage in many tournaments, like France in '98 in the World Cup, like the World Cup in 2010, 2014, sorry. They were also part of quick eliminations in the last 16 and such. So in some regards the ranking is correct, but I would like to mention that in terms of football produced at this Euro, Spain produced better football than all the other teams combined, and they won fair and square the trophy. So this is the only consolation I had, because I didn't like too much the Euro 2024, especially when it came to important matches, to decisive matches. Of course, the first 2 stage group matches were decent, but then everything turned out to be, let's say, very boring, very, let's say, without anything to offer. And footballers, what they don't understand is that supporters and the popularity of sports grew because of the entertainment, because you want to see a spectacle, let's say a show, not to see 2 opponents that are defending excessively, that they show not to be able to play, to risk to play piece of football and so on. So then football is, if you want, to have like it at a semi-professional level, it's fine, you can go like this, but to absorb huge amounts of money is just not justified, because the football is very poor. So I'm referring here, for example, because it's clear Spain performed wonderful. They won fair and square. They become the first team that wins 7 matches at the Euro 2020 at the Euro. And my impression is that neither at the World Cup any of the teams won all the 7 games. I will check this maybe for another article in the future, but I am under the impression that no team have achieved 7 wins in a row at the final tournament like this. So many people say Yamal was outstanding. Pedri, Rodri won the tournament player title, but I don't agree. The key player from Spain, from my perspective, was Nico Williams. I like him the most, and afterwards I've considered Olmo is the second in this ranking. Without these 2 offensive players, I don't think Spain would have achieved what they did achieve. Marc Cucurella, a player I've made fun of at the beginning of the tournament. He looked ridiculous. He looked to be the weak link of Spain. He performed, from my perspective, it was apart from these two, Fabian Ruiz, it's Marc Cucurella. These four, from my perspective, these four were the decisive players of Spain. Yamal, of course, he had also, let's say, completed the top 5, but Yamal couldn't have done it alone. Rodri had his play as well, but he didn't impose so much quality of play like these 5 from my perspective. So Nico Williams, I think, should have been the MVP, or worst case scenario, Olmo, and for sure Marc Cucurella, the surprise of the tournament. Now getting back to the other teams, because we debated that Spain is for sure was the best and foremost team from this competition. Disappointments refer, well, to Italy. It's not a disappointment because I saw Italy is a very weak team. They have a very poor quality at this moment. I don't know why, because Italy has a great tradition, but they are just a very poor team. But I was disappointed by Portugal, by Belgium, France I've already mentioned, by the Netherlands. Even though the Netherlands reached the semi-finals, the point was that the Netherlands was in the semi-finals, let's say by serendipity mostly. They have the weakest generation, like seeing in the last, I can't say in the last 40 years because the ranking is from the last 40 years, but like to mention from the past, because in the past they had even greater teams. So they have maybe the weakest team in 100 years or such, the Netherlands, but regardless, they've achieved the semi-finals where they were eliminated by England. But why have they got here? Well, firstly, in the group stage, they were trashed by Austria. They had one of the ugliest games in the tournament against France, 0-0, and they had a luck win against Poland. They overcame Poland after they were led, and so they did with Turkey in the quarterfinals. Now, Poland is a very weak team at this moment. Turkey is a decent team, but it's still not a team that can imagine to play in top football level, like semi-finals and even a final. Turkey from now is not Turkey from 2008 or 2022, for example, where they did play semi-finals. So this was the performance of the Netherlands, and the last 16 match against Romania, which I will talk a bit later, was it was a drained team. It was a very poor performing team because it doesn't have players that can perform better, especially after the group stage when they overperformed tremendously. I mean, it was the games of their life in any case. So the Netherlands actually didn't play to nobody, and with the England they played let's say a decent semi-final, but it was decent at low level because both teams were quite modest from my perspective. And it was the only good thing of that semi-final was the winning goal scored by the fresh Englishman entered in the place of Harry Kane, because now to move to England was even worse compared to the Netherlands. Only Bellingham had his piece. Harry Kane plays horrible, and you can see why he didn't win any single trophy in his career. He's a highly overrated player from my perspective, not necessarily in his whole career, but at least at this moment. At this moment, he's a huge overrated striker, even though he had a lot of goals. That doesn't matter when you play like this at the national team. So then England struggled a lot. They struggled in the group stage, even though they had a modest group, with Denmark playing modest football, Serbia, Slovenia as well. Then they were about to be swept by Slovakia, a decent team, but when you have ideas of winning a trophy, you shouldn't Slovakia shouldn't step on you. Then Bellingham scored the bicycle overhead kick, in the last second to go to the stoppage time, and then to extra time, and then England finally got out. They produced a good performance with Switzerland, because Switzerland is a solid team, and I was sure they will pass England, because they passed Italy. Well, Italy is far worse than England at this moment, but regardless, Switzerland played a decent football, and I was expecting more. So I was expecting from Austria against Turkey, but it wasn't the case. So bottom line, France, England, and the Netherlands in the semi-finals were, let's all combined couldn't beat Spain if they would play 43 players against 11. This is my perspective. This is how I saw the tournament. So Portugal, you saw they basically dragged themselves to the quarterfinals. They barely beat at penalties, at spot kicks, Slovenia, team that made it there. But it's interesting, they have 7 games at the Euro Championship 2000 and now 2024, but no victories, 6 draws indeed, out of 7, which is interesting. But still, it was a very poor team compared to what we have expected from Portugal. And then Portugal was eliminated by France at the spot kick as well in the quarterfinals. 2 modest teams. The game could have gone another way. The problem with Portugal is that they keep sticking with Cristiano Ronaldo and Pepe. Maybe Cristiano Ronaldo would be useful for 20 minutes max at the end of the game, for his experience, for his what he can do, but to play 90, 120 minutes 3 days apart, it just doesn't work. I mean, it's amusing to see him. Let's say he looks like he forgot playing football, but this is because of his age. He has almost 40 years of age, and he cannot be efficient for like more than 20, maybe 30 minutes. So this is one of the biggest problems. But in the end, it's their call, it's their nation, and they know better. So Belgium underperformed severely. Also, they only scored 12 goals against Romania from 4 games. And so they have fading generation. Kevin De Bruyne is good, Lukaku is still good, but they are not at the level to pass the last 16. Croatia, you saw it was eliminated by Italy, which is a disgrace considering the game played. And I'm referring back Croatia because they reached the last World Cup semi-finals. And yeah, this is about it for the big nations, at least. I've mentioned only the 3 from the ranking because it's obvious. It's not I don't know by heart the table, but you can see it there. And from all these teams I've mentioned are part of the first 10, and the first 10 are entered by the Czech Republic. For some of you that don't know, the landscape, it might be a bit strange, but it's not that strange because the Czech Republic played the final in '96, semi-final in 2004 when they were big favorites, but they were eliminated by Greece and so on. So now, this is what I can mention about the top teams that in the end were the spotlight takers. Maybe Turkey and Switzerland, as mentioned, were the only smaller teams that provide some context, some overperformed over the expectations. They were good, especially Switzerland. I had bigger hopes from them, but in the end it was not the case. Both reached the quarterfinals. Now, being from Romania, I know I discussed already about this subject, and I will touch it more after the final tournament to put things in place as they are, not as people think they are. Romania performed great against Ukraine, then good against Belgium, but not to forget Belgium beat Romania 2-0 and they were awarded only 2 goals scored by Belgium in that tournament. So this speaks for itself, especially that Belgium didn't play against good teams. They played against Slovakia, Ukraine, well, mostly the teams Romania played against, and France, which France was, as you can heard from my sayings, it was a very poor performing team. Now, with the last game against Slovakia, it was a convenient 1-1, and then in the end Romania was trashed by the Netherlands, even though the Netherlands has also a modest team. So it wasn't in the end the kind of performance anybody should brag about, because it was only qualification in the last 16. So it's in the group stage, apart from Scotland, only former Eastern Bloc countries, Eastern European countries were eliminated. So on top of this, in the last 16, the only group that had all its teams eliminated was the one for Romania, Belgium and Slovakia. All 3 teams were eliminated. So that speaks for itself, the quality of this group stage, of this specific group, and the quality of the football actually produced by Romania. It was a decent result, but it was nothing more than an overperformance individually for these guys. So yeah, these were my comments. You can see I've made also a ranking thinking about Romania to show that Romania, even though people really think had performance in the past, it basically didn't, because it's on the 20th spot in Europe in the last 30 years, when Romania actually participated in some decent tournaments. Because if I would have made a ranking from 1930 to present day, it was even worse, because in the ranking you see below Romania, below the 20th spot, you see Hungary, you see Poland, you see Slovakia, which was part of Czechoslovakia, you see Serbia, Montenegro, which was part of Yugoslavia. We are speaking about teams that won European Championship, that reached the semi-finals of World Cups, played the final of World Cups, finals or semi-finals of European tournaments, Euro, and such things that Romania didn't do in any time of its history. So then, if you are going historically speaking, Romania is one. I mean, the only countries you can refer to that perform historically speaking world or European tournaments, let's say, poorly, were, let's say, Finland, Norway, but these are two countries, not football countries, not interested very much in countries with the 4 times less population than Romania, because Romania has the 10th population in Europe. So the 20th place current, it's not the best to brag about. This is the truth. So then, apart from this, maybe the Republic of Ireland, but not forget that the Republic of Ireland eliminated Romania in '90 at the Coppa del Mondo from Italy, when they played a direct game. So overall they are poor as performing, but when they played a decisive match against Romania, they qualified. Northern Ireland has also quarterfinal, not to mention Bulgaria. Okay, Bulgaria is below in this ranking, but Bulgaria in the same '94, when Romania played the quarterfinals, they also played the semi-finals of that tournament. So that is a result Romania doesn't have. But yeah, these were my biggest comments. I don't want to make it even longer, this video, because I understand it's a lot long, it's significantly long. I just want to clarify some things to make, let's say, an impression about what happened and how I'm seeing this final tournament. Apart from Spain, I was very disappointed about the quality of football. And yeah, about the ranking, because I like numbers, I like to put things in place to quantify them. So you can check the link from the description, and yeah, we can have conversations if you wish. You can leave a comment and so on. So bye guys.